there's an elephant in the room. No, really, there's an elephant in the room and it's acting weird as hell. I think it's gotta take a shit. Can somebody please do something about this? So for me personally, my first memories of New York City were taking the Metro North train in after 9/11 to visit my papa who was working there at the time. One time my grandma took me out of school and she brought me to New York City. She took me to the Empire State Building and I had my first ever soda, a ginger ale. And of course I had to lie to get it because my mom would never let me have soda at home. I had to lie and say that I drink soda all the time. I'm a seasoned soda veteran. I wouldn't say that, but something along those lines. But I remember doing that, and I also remember meeting my grandpa in Bryant Park to grab lunch, and he took me to his favorite building in the city, the Grace Building. The Grace Building was so sick because to me, it just looked like a giant skateboard ramp. Game over. I was sold. I would be just like my grandfather. I'd be an awesome producer. I would work in the Big Apple. I would drink soda every fucking day of my life, and someday I would absolutely shred that Grace Building. I never end up shredding it because if I did, I'd probably be dead right now and you wouldn't hear this. But anyways, as soon as I turned 18 years old, the very first thing I did was move to New York City, and I stayed there for 7 years. I stayed 2 years in downtown Manhattan dorm rooms, 2 years in Williamsburg, Brooklyn with some buddies of mine, 3 years out in Bushwick, and they were truly, truly the greatest years of my entire life. I worked in coffee shops, movie theaters, restaurants, TV internships. Yeah, that's Billy Ray Cyrus and Harry Connick Jr. singing to me in an elevator. Isn't that fucking crazy? That was my life in 2017. And eventually I got a job at Nickelodeon, which was a massive childhood dream of mine. I even got to be in some commercials. It was crazy. I partied really hard. Some might say too hard, honestly.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
And I really, really loved that city. But then in 2020, something changed.
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus.
Quarantine got me thinking a lot about my relationship with the city and my relationship with myself. I realized that I hadn't been treating myself properly for a while, and it felt like it kind of all came crashing down when I was forced to deal with myself and only myself for a year. And I could tell something was wrong. So could my friends. You could see it in these baby blue eyes. I was stagnant. My art was shit and I was depressed. So I left. I packed my bags, subletted my apartment, and I headed out to LA, and I got an Airbnb in Hollywood for a couple months, kind of just to get out of my element and just to get some sunshine.
They're drinking Gatorade.
Yeah. I was just searching for some kind of inspiration, and that's exactly what I found within the first week or two of being there. It was crazy. In my whole life, I've heard people say, do what you love, you could be whoever you want, do whatever you want, but the truth is it's rarely ever practiced, especially if you're, a 24-year-old with not a lot of money and not a lot of options. But when I went out to LA, it was like the first time that I witnessed people actually doing what they loved, and they were doing a great job at it. So the switch just flipped in my brain, and I realized I want to do what I love all the time. And what I didn't love was being stuck in New York City. And it's actually wild to think about, but if I hadn't taken that leap to go out to LA, I don't know if this show would have ever been made, because it was so inspiring being out there to the point I decided to just knock all my walls down and actually make the damn thing that I've been thinking about for years.
In 10 years, I'm going to have my own talk show. I'm going to have millions of dollars.
Hey, asshole face. The only way to win is to show up. If you don't show up, you don't win. You sit in the house, you're not going to make it in life.
And for the first time ever, I was feeling so confident about my work and what I was making. It was such an incredible feeling. And as a result, I think I was subconsciously getting all this shit off of my chest that I've been wanting to say forever. I'd had so many ideas that were boiling up, and I finally was getting it off my chest. So my mental health was just feeling so much better because my head felt so clear, and I didn't want to go back to New York and kind of lose that momentum that I was gaining. So I called my girlfriend on the phone, and she was so fucking supportive. It was amazing. I explained to her my predicament, which she knew that I'd been battling with for a while, and we made the decision to not go back to New York and not sign a new lease. And we decided we were going to travel the country for the rest of the year, and we actually did it. We bought a car and we drove back and forth around the country, Airbnb-ing in our dream cities that were on our bucket list we've never been to. And it was so cool. I got to work from all these different desks and all these Airbnbs and make my show every week kind of on the road while I was working my 9-to-5 job. It was just really such an incredible experience. I realized that you could be happy in other places of the world, not just New York. And if you left New York, it wasn't a sign of weakness, which I had thought for so long. Like, you know, the city beat me, the city fucking destroyed me, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, honestly, it did. And once I came to terms with that, I was such a happier person. And does that mean that New York City is not the best city in the world? No, New York City is the best fucking city in the entire world, and I'm sure of that. But it's just not the place for me right now. I haven't seen my grandfather in over 8 years, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been really hard for me. But in the strangest way, I haven't felt this connected to him in a really long time. I'm a producer. I spent a lot of time in New York. I've traveled the world with someone I really love. My grandpa was a sailor, so he would sail around the world with my grandma. And that was something I always really admired about him. And look at me now, I've been traveling the country and just been living my life. And as I record this in my new studio in Austin, Texas, I see this little black couch to the right of me. And this couch is no ordinary couch. This couch is very, very special to me because my grandparents bought this couch here in Texas when they lived here when I was a little kid. Eventually, when they moved back to the East Coast, this couch kind of ended up back at my parents' house. So now I asked my mom to ship it back to me in Texas because I really wanted it to be here and be a part of my creative process in my studio. And even though I'm not in New York anymore, and even though I don't drink soda every day, and even though I will never skate the Grace Building, no, maybe I'll skate the Grace Building. Never say never, right? At least I get to look at this sick leather black couch every goddamn day, and it reminds me of my grandpa, and it reminds me of doing what you love, and that's fucking awesome.